Young people, freedom is not free. Someone always has to pay the price. The price is high, but Americans have always been willing to pay it when necessary.
The 101st Airborne Division was activated on August 16, 1942 at Camp Claiborne, Louisiana. Its first commander, Major General William C. Lee, said that the 101st has no history, but has a rendezvous with destiny. It was on June 6, 1944, in their first rendezvous with destiny, the Screaming Eagles came onto the world stage, parachuting into Normandy, France, clearing the way for the invasion of Western Europe and marking the beginning of the Allies' assault on Nazi Germany. Subsequently, the 101st fought tenaciously in places like Hell's Highway, the Netherlands, during Operation Market Garden, and Bastogne, Belgium, during the Battle of the Bulge. The division's grit and determination ultimately contributed to defeating tyranny and securing European peace. After peace broke out in Europe, the division deactivated for 5 years. It was reactivated at Camp Breckinridge, Kentucky in 1950, following the outbreak of the Korean War, to serve as a training center for units deploying to the Korean Peninsula. In 1956, the Screaming Eagles reconstituted at Fort Campbell, Kentucky as a warfighting unit. Then, in 1968, the Screaming Eagles again found themselves in combat, this time in the Republic of Vietnam. The 101st fought in 45 operations spanning nearly 7 years. It was in the jungles of Vietnam where 19 Screaming Eagles earned the Congressional Medal of Honor. In August 1990, the 101st deployed to Saudi Arabia to support Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. In January 1991, the 101st fired the first shots of Desert Storm and executed the longest and largest air assaults in history. Nearly a decade later, the 101st was called back into action following the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001. The 3rd Brigade Combat Team deployed to Afghanistan in November of 2001 to bring the fight to those who inflicted harm on the U.S. As the global war on terrorism was waged in Central and Southwest Asia, the 101st was one of the most deployed units across the Army, fighting in both Iraq and Afghanistan continuously for nearly 20 years. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the division headquarters and the 2nd Brigade Combat Team returned to Europe for the first time in 80 years to reinforce NATO's eastern flank, facilitating the international community's material assistance to Ukraine, building capacity with European allies and partners, all while deterring further Russian aggression on the continent. Based at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault is currently comprised of 6 subordinate brigades, 3 Infantry Brigade Combat Teams, 1st Brigade, Bastogne, 2nd Brigade, Strike, and 3rd Brigade, Rakasans. The Army's largest combat aviation brigade, Wings of Destiny, a division support brigade, Lifeliners, which provides sustainment and logistical support to the division, and a division artillery brigade, Guns of Glory, who serve as the division's fire support element. Although we no longer jump out of airplanes, we pay homage to the rich legacy of those who did by continuing to don the airborne tab and ceremonial jump boots. However, in a more significant way, our roots and vertical envelopment persist in our mission as the world's only functional air assault division. In this capacity, we have pioneered the development of air assault tactics, techniques, and procedures. Our core mission is to conduct operations in which assault forces, using the mobility of rotary wing assets and the total integration of available direct and indirect fires, maneuver under the control of a ground or air maneuver commander to engage enemy forces or to seize and hold key terrain. Air assault operations give the commander an advantage in 3 key areas. Mobility, capitalizing on the speed and mobility of the rotary wing aircraft to maneuver across any terrain to achieve surprise through the use of vertical envelopments. Lethality, delivering combat power across the spectrum of sustained operations, utilizing the AH-64 Apache helicopter, the Army's premier airborne tank killer, in order to destroy key enemy units, facilities, and weapon systems, and secure positions for artillery. And reach, enabling a combatant commander to exploit targets or key terrain earlier in the fight across operational distances to achieve the element of surprise and exert their will in depth. The 101st Airborne Division Air Assault came into existence knowing war was its destiny. Today and into the future, soldiers of this storied division continue to organize, innovate, and train, fully understanding that it is one of the nation's contingency response forces. The only way to be prepared for uncertainty is thinking smarter and training harder, so that when America calls, the Screaming Eagle soldiers will continue to address the evolving security landscape with the same level of audacity as it has for the past 80 years.
My advice to you is to keep yourself prepared, because it may be your turn the next time freedom is threatened.